That was a day.
Yeah.
So let's do the poll. There's only two of us, so it's really it's not good. It's not a great poll, but the body, was it alive, or was he sleeping, or was he dead?
I'm going with passed out.
Passed out.
Sleeping.
Yeah. Okay. We had a very interesting day.
On that note.
We went for, so the power went out at about 11 a.m. for us this morning.
Yep.
Big windstorm coming through.
Trying to enjoy our days.
A lot of trees are down. So we just bailed on the house, went out to get a run in. Went to the local park. The river was nuts.
It looked like the ocean. It had like full blown waves. You could barely like hear each other. There was a dude that decided that he wanted to do some stair repeats after hopping off his bike in like Jenko style jeans, probably improper shoes. So Daniel had to go put your AirPods up for some reason, right?
Yeah, they weren't.
So I'm out like there by myself, like, taking
watching
in the
him
sights.
jam on the steps.
Yeah, and he like would go to the top of the steps. I thought he was gonna like blow back down the steps with how.
Did he full on Rocky when he got to the top of them?
No, he like actually ran up the top of him and then like heaved over and was like very out of breath. But then he did it again, so I guess good for him. But yeah, our power went out and we knew we wanted to run today. We thought that we might do separate runs. I was like, well, the weather might, because originally it was supposed to rain, right? Today, like that was
the weather report has just been useless the last few days.
And if I hadn't decided to be a little lazier and stay in my bed longer, I would have been on the treadmill when the power kicked off. So I guess, that was a break that we had today.
We avoided an ER trip.
Yeah, we got to do that.
So anyways, we're running up the river wall in the town that we live in, and
our small little town.
We see this guy walking his dog, and he like says something to me, and I just kind of laugh it off, and then
I can't hear it all because I've got my AirPods
in, so she can't hear it.
And I can't hear anyway.
So he says it again, and he's like, I was just looking to see if that body over there was alive or sleeping or what. And
I'm doing the smile and nod thing still because I still can't hear.
And I kind of double take around and look at him and then look to where he pointed, and there's just a human figure laying on top of, I don't know what they were laying on, with a bike next to it.
Just like a bed of grass.
And it's like, I don't know. I mean, they weren't moving. And then when we came back, a mile and a half later, was probably 20 minutes later, we came back through. I don't know exactly how long. They were still laying there.
But when the guy first said that, like, keep in mind, again, I can't hear anything because of the wind, my AirPods. I'm pretty sure I was listening to the Lizzie McGuire song from the movie This Is What Dreams Are Made Of, because, that's how I roll.
That's what killed him.
And I'm like, I have a big smile on my face, and I'm like, what'd that guy say? And then Daniel's like, oh, we're just trying to decide if this body over here is dead or just passed out. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So, hello and welcome to We Watch TV, a podcast about TV we watch. This is our 10th episode. Can you believe it? Can you believe we stuck with it for 10 episodes?
I am surprised, but it's been fun. I've had fun.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun.
I mean, just you guys are getting an invite into kind of like the conversations that we have when we're just milling around the house. Sometimes when we lose our power because the wind knocks it out, that'd be just a conversation we'd probably have.
Yeah. We should have recorded the task during the power outage because I've got this laptop that we record on. And then just make it a tradition to always record when the power's out so people understand that it happens more than you would think for us here.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
Anyways, we've got a great episode for you. We're going to talk about what we've been watching, including things like Star Trek Picard, Star Wars The Mandalorian, Ted Lasso, and a couple other things. But before we get into that, because it is our 10th episode and we wanted to thank all of our loyal listeners who have been here with us for the entire thing, we have a bit of an announcement.
We have a giveaway. Because it is our 10th episode, we wanted to do something special. So we have 2 different prizes that we're going to give away. We have both, I feel like, been surprised, like pleasantly surprised by the support that we've received. We know some people that listen to the podcast, but others of you, like, we haven't met in person. And I think it's been pretty cool for us to kind of share.
I know far less of them than you do.
Yeah, I have a lot of, thankfully, some support from my Twitter friends.
I'm just a cave troll, so.
Oh, that's not true. But we've really appreciated the support that we've had. And because we're having such a good time doing it, we have 2 fun prizes for you. And Daniel, you want to tell them what they need to do to win those?
Sure. So to enter for the drawing of the prize, you just need to share one of our posts on Twitter or Instagram. So that would be a Twitter post that we post about this episode in particular, or the Instagram story that we put up for this. We'll try and make sure we have some stories up from both of us throughout the week. Try and get those in by the Saturday after this episode posts.
So that would be.
I just realized I don't have my phone in front of me, so I don't have any idea what dates
Saturday, April 1st.
Yep. So try and do your either retweet or share our Instagram story to your story by Saturday. By the end of the day, Saturday, after this episode, and we will put you in for the drawing and call you out on the the 11th episode, which is next week's episode.
Let's just call it by noon Saturday.
By noon Saturday, okay.
April 1st. That'll work. It's our first giveaway. But yeah, do that. And
you don't want to be monitoring till the midnight on Saturday?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I might not be able to if my power goes out again.
It's not an April Fool's joke, we promise. We don't do those. We do not participate. We do not participate in April Fools. I do not participate in April Fools. It's a foolish, stupid holiday.
Anyway.
Why are you giving me that look?
I'm not giving you a look.
Like you're planning something.
I've never done anything April Foolsy.
Okay. So, anyways, we thank everybody who does listen, and we encourage you to continue to listen. And also, if you haven't gone into Spotify or Apple Podcasts and followed us and rated us with the little star ratings in Spotify, and I it's different in Apple Podcasts, and I haven't figured it out yet. But go do those things.
Hosts.
Go do those things. They help us get the word out there, and encourage. It also is encouraging for us to get that feedback to
it inspires
know
us
you're
to
listening and
stuff.
that you like what we're talking about. So with that out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and get into what we've been watching this week. And actually, to start off, we have been watching something new.
Yes, new content at last. We decided to start watching the show Shrinking, which is on Apple TV Plus. Since we have Apple TV for Ted Lasso specifically, why not check out another show? I know my friend Kelly told me about that. She's one of my Instagram friends. Hey, if you're listening. And I've had a couple other people tell me that it looked pretty good. And I mean, it's got Han Solo in it, so
yeah,
what could go wrong? We are, I think, about halfway through it.
We've seen 4 episodes. I don't know if it's an 8 or a 10 episode.
It might be 10, so we might be a little almost to that halfway point. Daniel and I are the type of people that while we do like movies, sometimes we'll be like, oh man, I can't sit down to watch like a 2 to 2.5 hour movie. I can't dedicate that time to it.
But I will watch 3 hours of a TV show.
Yeah, but we'll sit there and we'll watch a TV show. I mean, hence the name that We Watch TV Podcast. Not that we don't like movies, but especially when it's a show like this, I feel like this has
this flows so easily.
Some of the same producers for Ted Lasso is a producer for this show. I feel like they're very much in tone.
Interesting thing too, somebody that worked on Scrubs worked on this show, and I can feel that.
I can feel that vibe as well.
Scrubs, all-time great.
And one of the characters from Scrubs is in the show. Dr. Cox's ex-wife.
Oh yeah, that's right.
She is the neighbor lady.
How did I forget that considering I was the one that pointed that out and told you, and you were like, no, it wasn't.
She always looked taller to me on Scrubs.
She looks 20 years older? Is that what you mean?
No, it's not so much. She does look older, but she always, for some reason, maybe it's just because she had that short hair on Scrubs, and she just appeared taller to me, and she just looks.
Well, I mean, she is in a lot of scenes next to the guy.
Jason
Segel.
Yeah,
and he is
super
giant.
tall.
So maybe that's one of the things that threw you off.
Fair point.
So
he's in it. Harrison Ford's in it.
Michael Urie.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff. Ugly Betty. He's in a really funny Netflix Christmas movie about the two guys. It's like, I think it was like the first Netflix Christmas movie that featured 2 gay leads as like the main plot. So I can't remember what the name of that movie is, but it was a really good one. I think it came out last Christmas. You watched it with me, right? It had what's her name? Jennifer Coolidge was in it.
All of the Christmas content that you put me through.
Jennifer
really
Coolidge was in it though, remember?
Point.
She was directing like the Christmas
I'm being
pageant.
pointed at right now, and I do not remember.
You don't remember that movie?
No.
We're going to pause after we do this segment, and then Daniel's going to be like, oh, yeah, I remember that movie. But Jennifer Coolidge was like his aunt.
She's threatening me right now. Wow.
The woman from Hocus Pocus played the mom in it.
Okay, maybe I remember
That's
that.
right.
All right. Okay.
And one of the guys that's been in a lead in the Hallmark movie was also in it. He wasn't like part of the love interest, but he had like a small role because I'm like, oh, he does Hallmark movies.
So
anyway,
Shrinking.
Moving on to the show Shrinking. I don't want to spoil. I know we're a spoiler podcast, but since this is a very fresh new show, and I don't even know the end of it, I don't want to spoil too much of it. But I'm definitely going to say it's got that Ted Lasso vibe, and now that you pointed it out, I can feel the Scrubs vibe.
There was another show too, and I can't remember what it was. That was kind of the same group of people that I also agreed. I'd have to look it up. I'm a terrible podcast host.
It's very emotional, but still funny. But I don't know. Each of the characters from all the people. There's like 3 therapists. Harrison Ford's character. Then there's, I think her name's Gabby, and then Jason Segel's character, and they're all obviously going through their issues. Jason's character, Jimmy. That's his name, right? Jimmy.
Yes.
I just keep calling him Marshall from How I Met Your Mother. Great show. Terrible finale that ruined it forever, but that's a whole other podcast. His character actually has lost his wife. That's not a spoiler. That's how the show starts. Yeah. And you're kind of seeing him coping. So for people that Daniel and I both go to therapy, not ashamed to admit that, we think of our therapists as these sometimes, I think, like superhuman people that don't have their own issues. And then you see that like all these therapists are each going through it. The neighbor's going through it. He's mending a relationship with his daughter. He might be getting a little too close to some of his patients, not romantically speaking, but friendship-wise.
Yeah, he's definitely crossing lines.
Yeah, but I want that relationship to be maintained, and maybe the other guy just gets referred to another therapist.
I mean, in the real world, that's what would happen, but we'll see how the TV world takes it.
It was kind of depressing because it reminded me that Harrison Ford, actually is old, even though he's still pretty hot for an old man.
He had his shirt off.
There was that scene where he had his shirt off, and like for once, I was like, okay, he is looking old because it's like his face doesn't look that old to me. He still looks pretty good.
One thing I'll say about this show, I like it. I'm enjoying it greatly. I think it's already renewed for a season 2.
Yes, it is.
I will wait until it is completely out because I know Apple does the weekly release on this, and this is not a show I could watch on a weekly release.
Unless we get really hooked into it by the end of the season. We don't have any chill sometimes.
Yeah, I know, but still, especially if it's only 8 episodes, I can wait.
No, I think it's 10.
Okay, even if it's 10 episodes, we're going to wait a year for the season 2. I can wait 10 extra weeks.
I think I'm just going to have to reserve my judgment on how chill I will be with how that finale goes. But I agree. I like to let my show stack. And unfortunately, I cannot let my show stack when it comes to amazing shows like the next one we've been watching, which is Ted Lasso.
Yes, absolutely.
Season 3, the episode 2.
2, yes. Which we got a day early.
Did
everybody else get it a day early? Did everybody else get it on Tuesday? Because it usually comes out on Wednesday.
Daniel got it's supposed to come out on Wednesday. It even said that. You got what, an alert on your phone?
I got a notification on my phone that Ted Lasso was
Apple.
out. I was like, you guys are lying to me. So we checked, and there it was.
So we started playing. I was like, this can't be real, and yeah, it happened.
Because I had been complaining earlier in the evening how we have 2 shows on Wednesday and 1 show on Thursday, and I really wish that we could get a Tuesday so that we can kind of have our week.
It's like you manifested it to happen.
All work. And it won't happen next week, and so I'll just.
And then it'll be really disappointing. I would really like it if we did have the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday slot because that was great.
Somebody give us something good on Tuesday.
Somebody, please. Maybe just gift us with this episode. But it was a good episode. The plot's moving along. We're not going to sit here and talk about do an entire recap with you guys, but I do have a special quote that I would be remiss not to share from the episode. So, you guys know, we've briefly just talked about it already. Hallmark Christmas movies. Daniel, how much do I love Hallmark Christmas movies?
You use the app to track which ones you've seen and check them off and go check when you press the little button.
And I have good friends that use the app as well. Your mother.
I want to make sure everybody understands what I just said. She says, check, like Monica in Friends.
Okay, I never thought that was weird until Friends pointed that off. You check. I love that. I'm a list person, but my mother-in-law uses the app. I know that, I'm pretty sure. And then one of my very best friends, Kaylin. Hey, Kaylin. She is the one that actually told me about the app. And we like to compare which ones we watched, which ones we haven't. And you've watched quite a few. What's your favorite Hallmark one of all time that you always bring up to me?
The time travel.
There's been a lot of time travel ones.
More than you'd think.
The one where they were in the museum, right?
He's in the museum, and he goes forward 200 years.
And it was like the guy's house.
Yeah. His house was eventually turned into a museum.
They also had the train one where they went back on time on the train. You like that one, right?
That was all right.
What was your favorite one from this past year?
Probably the time travel one where the ghosts.
The ghost with Carl Winslow was
back? Yeah.
The Ghost of Christmas Present?
Yes.
I liked that one, and I liked Three Wise Men and a Baby. See, they have just great titles. But anyway, somehow a Hallmark reference came up in Ted Lasso, and the Roy Kent and everybody like, what's a Hallmark? So here's our old Ted, and I think Ted gave like the perfect description.
Yeah, he did.
He says, Hallmark Christmas movies are films that feature women from the big city falling in love with their childhood crushes. It's usually some fella that owns a Christmas tree farm. Sometimes he's also Santa Claus or a prince. They suck, but they're great. But they also mostly suck. But they're also kind of great. They're good with the sound off.
And I think Roy Kent's response was, huh.
I don't remember how Roy Kent's response was, but perfect description. Accurate to a T.
So, yeah, Ted Lasso is going good. Two good episodes. I'm excited for him to keep going. But I'm really excited to keep going with Star Trek Picard.
Picard. Knocking it out of the park. I know some people are like, oh, you guys are talking about Star Trek again. We've been waiting for this, especially you, but this is the first season of Picard was okay. It was all right. We enjoyed it. Obviously we liked it enough that's, again, Marvin's middle name.
Yeah.
Second season, garbage. Third season was, I think, what we both always wanted it to be. And who showed up?
Butterfly in the sky.
I can fly twice as high. Mr. Geordie LaForge.
And I just want to keep on this train because there's this character that's a new character to Picard this season,
Shaw.
Captain Shaw, who you have consistently maintained you do not like.
But I'm starting
and
to
yet,
like him.
every episode, he is an avatar for the fans.
They're chipping away at making him.
Because while he was like roasting Picard and Riker every time he got a chance this season, Geordi shows up and he's starstruck.
He was that's who we've been waiting for.
Like I feel like every kid who grew up in the 90s, who's our age, even if you didn't watch Star Trek,
yeah.
you knew what Reading Rainbow was. They did a Star Trek episode.
My
of
friend
Reading
Beth
Rainbow.
and I used to put our headbands on over our eyes. Now, I did watch Star Trek with my dad. I'm not sure if she did. And we'd run around the house dressed like Geordie LaForge.
Yeah. Geordie was just
like
like
the
that
guy from Star Trek.
Geordie was like the kid's like pick for character on the show.
Because he's an icon, a legend. So he was who we were like. It was exciting to see Worf, exciting to see Riker. Obviously, we've already seen like Data, but that was pretty good.
Yeah.
And we got two different sides of ships.
There was so much ships in this episode.
I'm going to go with my ships first. So Picard's, spoiler alert, Picard's son that he shares with Beverly Crusher, and LaForge's daughter, who she has two daughters. One of them works on what is this ship called? The Titan that we're currently on. And they finally have a scene like together, and I'm like, oh, the chemistry, the heat, the passion, I ship it. And then I'm just kind of like laughing it off.
It was like he smiled at her, and all of a sudden I saw you smile.
A romance was bloomed.
And you were like excited suddenly to be there.
We ship it. And then we had some more content with that, and to a scene where Mr. Geordie was like, hey, you, stay away from my daughter. And I'm like, oh, they're going to make it canon. But then Daniel freaked out and almost teared up. You want to tell him about your ships?
So they had the Defiant from Deep Space Nine.
So these are actual
They went
ships.
to the Starfleet Museum.
Not relationships, right? Not relationships.
Yeah, that's correct. And they had all the ships from a lot of different places. They had the Defiant from Deep Space Nine. They had Voyager from Voyager. They had an old Constitution class like that looked like the original series Enterprise. That wasn't the original series Enterprise because that one got destroyed. And then they had the Enterprise A, which is from the later movies with Kirk. That has always been my favorite. So that was really.
Is that the one that
really
almost made you tear up?
Yeah,
shed a man tear.
Well, they did a really good job with the music. Like
someone was cutting onions.
They had all the music from the different shows that when they hit those ships, and it's just like that's something I used to sit around in study hall and draw Star Trek ships in a notebook.
One of the cool kids.
Just all kinds of different designs. I love them. The aesthetic of the Starfleet ships is one of the best sci-fi aesthetics there is out there.
And this is why I love nerds, ladies and gentlemen. Don't knock them. And then back to the relationships. We finally got our answer with Rafi and 7 of 9. They are broken up.
Yes.
They seem like they're in a decent place. We got some good commentary from Worf in that scene. But yeah, I'm pretty darn excited for the next episode.
Yeah, it just keeps getting better. I'm kind of sad we've only got 4 left, but I'm also excited to see where they take it.
And out of the two of us, like I grew up watching Next Generation with my dad. they would have it on. So I always liked it. But I am definitely not the Star Trek nerd. That is Daniel, clearly. But I am also, I always liked Picard, again, Marvin's middle name. I'm loving this, and it's probably the show. Well, I'd say still Ted Lasso for me is the show I'm most excited for, but this is very close, and you're probably more excited for a Star Trek each week, right?
Yeah, I mean, Ted Lasso is going to keep ramping up, and Ted Lasso is great, but yeah, I am generally week to week looking forward to this the most.
And before we go into our next space show,
you're going to call out the Star Wars fans?
Yeah, I think I'm going to. I am a huge Star Wars fan, and this is, again, we know, you guys know, this is a spoiler podcast. You might need to skip around sometimes if it's a show you haven't seen. But that being said, online, I am pretty sure that it's the life goal of Star Wars fans to scoop everybody, that's a journalism term, and ruin it for everybody else. I don't know how these people, when did the episodes launch on like the East Coast, like 3 a.m?
Yeah, I think it's like midnight Pacific time. So
like,
like
somehow like, at like 3:12, and I'm like, how did you even watch the episode that fast? Huge spoiler. And I'm like, we're Star Trek fans. They're more like, that was a really great episode. You guys got to watch. Someone from the past is going to show up. It's cool. Yeah. And obviously, we knew LaForge was coming this week.
It seems like Star Wars fans, it's like a contest who can get the spoiler out there the quickest. Whereas, and by the way, this season of Picard, if you compare it to the season we're getting of Mandalorian right now, it's more spoilerific because they're doing a lot of callbacks to stuff.
We knew Geordi was going to show up. We saw the promo material, but we didn't know how it was going to go down.
But like the Fleet Museum with all those ships, none of us knew it was going to happen. And if this was Star Wars, somebody would have had that up 30 minutes after the episode dropped. Look at all these ships that they showed off in blah, blah, blah. Or look who, shows up. Or look, what about that cliffhanger ending?
So that's a huge reason to me why you can't let a show like The Mandalorian stack up. I would compare Star Wars fans in the same line. Like if we used to watch Game of Thrones, if you would miss one episode of Game of Thrones, you would be absolutely screwed.
Yeah, like we
we were late to the Game of Thrones party, and I never knew that Ned Stark died. I knew that some stuff went down at the Red Wedding, but I didn't know that, and I don't know how. I must have been living under a rock.
Yeah, you must have. Cause
I feel like it got really popular though later after the Red Wedding, and that's kind of when we caught up. But
that's when it really kind of the Red Wedding.
That's for a whole other podcast.
Like what really went for it. So that's a whole.
So
other
jumping into those Star Wars shows, my son, he likes to jump. Go check out that TikTok. You want to kick us off, Daniel? I know you have a lot to say.
So they took us to another Order 66 flashback.
That was the best part of the episode.
And I'm never going to turn those down. And I thought that, before I go into my issues with this episode, bringing Ahmad Best in to play a Jedi that rescues Grogu. For those of you who don't know, Ahmad Best is best known for being the actor that did Jar Jar.
And I never had a problem with Jar Jar. Star Wars fans are crazy.
Yeah, bringing him in and letting him do that role was just really, I enjoyed that. As soon as that door opened, and I knew who it was because I'm a Star Wars nerd. And it just really, it warmed my heart, I guess is the best way I can think about it. Because it's like, he has been through so much, and
I mean, he really
got
death threats.
Yeah, he's one of those actors that was really ridiculed for what he did. When all he was doing was showing up to do the job that he was got hired to do.
He's talked about his depression that he received because of all the unnecessary fan hate.
Yes.
So getting him to be, which he did not play, I would have been fine with him playing Jar Jar, but he showed up. He played a character he's played in another Star Wars.
There was a Star Wars game show for kids
he was in,
that he was a Jedi for. And I think there's some other canon material like in comic books and stuff where that character shows up. But he shows up to really, this is kind of like the formal canonization, I guess you could say, because you want to think of like movies, TV shows where it really, really matters to people.
His character's canon now, and he ended up saving our Grogu. That's how Grogu was able to
getting
survive.
Him off of Coruscant. And so I like that part of the episode.
It was a short episode. It was only about, 32 minutes maybe? It was short, right?
Are they going to keep...
Was it short?
Yeah, it was like little over 30 minutes. It wasn't long. Are they going to keep wandering down this trail with these Mandalorians who never take their helmets off? I thought at first they were going to be coming out as the cult of the villains that they are. And now I'm worried they're not, that they're actually saying this is the when they say this is the way, I'm starting to think the writers and the directors are also like, this is the way. And I want to be like, this is not the way. I do not care about this.
I think it's funny the way they have to eat their food. That they go and like, she's like, Bo-Katan's like, okay, well, how do we eat if we can't take our helmets off? And like, oh, well, we all like go in our separate directions.
Let me throw you another curveball with that. The one guy, what'd they do this episode? They went and rescued his son.
Yep.
How'd he make a son? With a helmet on.
That's a whole other discussion.
The more you think about it, it's just goofy and dumb. And
what do you think about Bo-Katan? She was talking about she brought up the mythosaur to the lady. The head lady, like, still, in my opinion, doesn't even seem to believe her. Do we think Bo-Katan is just playing these people, or do you think she's starting to buy in?
Because we can't see her face, so we can't really read what she's thinking. Which, if that's the direction they're going with it, that's a really cool idea. But right now, it's just the way they've gone with it for me is not hitting.
I thought it was a pretty decent episode. I liked but it was mainly for me. I liked the flashbacks of Grogu getting rescued, knowing that. I think Daniel just basically came up with a way they could end the entire series, though.
Well, that's not a way. That is the way they're going to end it.
This is the way?
This is the way. Because everybody was like, online, I think I might have seen one or two people say this, but most people are like, Din Djarin, who's the Mandalorian, he's gonna tame that mythosaur and ride it and become the leader of Mandalore. I'm like, no, he's not.
Grogu.
And Grogu is.
And that's why, and it's going to explain it if Grogu ends up being part of the Mandalorian and has little armor on, why in the sequels, my question has always been, why did I never see Grogu in the sequels? Like, where was Grogu?
Because they hadn't written him yet. Because the sequels were a dumpster fire.
Jump over and...
Because they had no idea what they were doing. Do you want me to go on?
Anyway, everything is canon now. Grogu is canon. So going from that knowledge, my question would be, why was he not in the sequels? Not because they hadn't written him yet, but like, how are they going to make this work from a writing perspective? And that's how they can do it.
He's on Mandalore with his Mandalorian helmet on, so we'll never see his cute little face ever again.
All right, this is the way. And that's about enough of this. Okay. The Mandalorian.
All right. We also watched The Bachelor.
Bachelor. And what week was it?
Sex Week. It was Sex Week. Did I remember that right?
They only said it about 30 times. So our Bachelor, by the time this podcast drops, the finale will have already dropped. So I promise
this guy
What'd
shows up.
Can I finish, please?
Sure, go ahead. I have actual thoughts here.
I just want to make sure that everybody knows that the finale would have already aired by the time this podcast comes out, so we'll have to react to that later. But go on, Mr. Bachelor, yourself.
This guy shows up, goes to talk to Jesse Palmer, who does not look like he gives a crap.
Jesse's there to just get paid.
But he's like, listen, so I made this decision. I'm not gonna sleep with any of these three contestants. And then, ladies and gentlemen, he sleeps with 2/3 of the contestants.
Do we know if it was 2/3?
It's 2/3, absolutely.
We know for sure he slept with Gabby. But do we think that Katie still slept with him, or do you? I don't.
Yes.
You think so?
Yes. Absolutely.
It was a very gross, icky.
And then he goes
thing. Basically, what was wrong about it was the way Zach. Okay, so everybody, I missed the days of The Bachelor when it was implied of what they were doing, and they're like, I don't really need to know that. So he and Gabby obviously hooked up, and then he decides that he's like, you know what? I've got to come clean to Katie, so I've got to go talk to Gabby about what happened. So I know that there's cameras around. I know that production can manipulate, but there's always ways that you can tell people and do things off camera and do it in a different way. So he goes to Gabby's door and just like basically broadcasts to all of America that is watching that they, had sex. So that's really a great way to treat somebody.
He also didn't go apologize to the one he didn't have sex with.
He was probably
Maybe that was apology
man, I missed
enough.
out on that.
Maybe that was apology enough.
And she is the one that the promos kept setting up to make it look like she was the one that was like the temptress. And I can tell that just from what I've seen on her social media, she's not real happy about that, and neither would I be. But yeah, so, and then he tells Katie about it. Again, he could have waited to tell Katie off camera too, like,
rainy
hey.
boat.
He's in a boat. Their date looked miserable, rainy. Like, they looked like they were getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. So instead of just waiting, like, because Katie's kind of like, yeah, I know that's usually what happens. You don't need to just like
But
tell
don't
me
tell
that
me about
right
it.
now in this moment. He said he told her to make himself feel better. He
Yeah,
wasn't thinking
absolutely.
about either woman when he said
He
these
was
things.
feeling guilty about it, and he needed to unburden himself.
And I'm not saying
Um,
on this show that there's anything wrong with like sleeping with people in the fantasy suites. It's the way he first of all said he wasn't going to, then the way when it did happen that he basically broadcasted somebody's personal business. And then he could have told Katie behind closed doors without a camera because she was, and then I don't know, she must really like him because she seemed to forgive him, and I think that's who he's going to pick. I hope Gabby self-eliminates though after how he treated her. What'd she say? She felt like she had a scarlet letter
yeah.
on, and he
Yeah.
didn't even look at her in the toast. But she probably, it was
It
gross.
was a real awkward toast at the end.
The way
Like
the
a real
situation
awkward
was handled, Zach could have handled things better. He basically, again, I think tried to make himself feel better. And yeah, it's ick. No,
Ick is a good way to describe the
The
show in
ick.
general.
the ick.
Ick.
Gives me the ick. So I don't know how that finale is gonna.
So it,
Gonna
so
go.
it
I'm
is
sure
the
I'll have
finale
some
next
thoughts.
coming up. Like, because I know they said they're going to meet families. That's the finale. They meet families.
In the finale, they meet families. Then he decides, and then we have the after the final rose, which is always live, and that's where you find out because the Bachelor, I think, wrapped filming. It always wraps filming, I think, like right before Thanksgiving. So then they have like these months, and you find out, are they still together? What's going on? And all that fun stuff. All that fun stuff. So that's pretty much what we've been watching.
So, and you've also been watching the actual, like, most recent version of the challenge.
I have been. I finally got pretty much caught up. I didn't go back. I went back, like, for fun, as you guys know, and rewatched old seasons that I had seen, like, way back when I was, like, in high school and college. And then I watched some seasons that I kind of knew what happened, but I hadn't really seen them in full. And then I skipped around a little bit because I still don't like it that they include people from, like, Big Brother and, like, Survivor.
Well, I thought you told me anybody could join to enter at this point.
That's pretty much what they're saying on Reddit, but right now they're pulling from those
Okay.
shows.
Because you were like, I should enter.
I saw a post on Reddit that says that you can apply, and I think that'd be for more like the fresh meat type shows if they ever did one of those again.
She didn't say I should enter as in Daniel should enter. She said I should enter as in Hope should
I
enter.
always wanted to do the challenge. I thought it would be fun. My big, like, I don't think I'd like a lot of the ones with like extreme heights, but
Or
I
eating
could I
bugs and
could
stuff.
roll with it. I could roll with the heights for the money.
What about the weird food?
Yeah, that'd be the thing that would get me, the eating the food. Blech. Every time that would be like that would be my Achilles heel.
There you
in
go.
The challenge.
You got it.
But this recent season is called the Challenge World Championship, and one of the reasons why it wasn't just because I've gotten pretty much caught up. Because again, I did skip around a little bit because I like it. I'm old school. I like it. And Road Rules doesn't even exist anymore, but I like the Road Rules people, the Real World people, the Fresh Meat cast, all of that. So I don't really care about these new people, but I knew that like Wes, who was one of my favorite challengers, was going to be on it. Johnny Bananas. I feel like that's all he does as a career, so he's obviously on this one.
Is that his legal name?
I can't.
John Bananas?
I can't pronounce his last name,
Oh,
but
okay.
that's what he goes. They call him Bananas. He's pretty much, I think he's won more challenges than anybody, but he's pretty much done almost like all of them. And it's so funny for me too, like any old school challenger watchers. I remember Johnny Bananas' very first challenge, and he was like one of the first ones eliminated. And then it's just crazy to me, like how like he continues to win.
He's one of the guys that's basically made this his career, right?
Essentially,
like that's all
yeah.
he does is go on these shows.
Yeah. And
Social media influencer.
yeah, he's got a podcast that a lot of people go on. But Wes, who
Well,
just won
that
All
doesn't say a
Stars.
lot. Look at all the people around that have podcasts.
Okay. His podcast is a little bit bigger than ours. But Wes, again, from Real World Austin. I was a big Real World Austin fan. He's always one of my favorite challengers. He's kind of, I feel like sometimes they give him like a little bit of a villain edit, but I've always really enjoyed him. And he won All Stars 3, and now he's back to this is the main challenge. The All Stars cast are still my favorite because that's the, the old people. The OGs. I like watching those, the people that I grew up watching. But he was on, Darrell's on. So a lot of people that I really like are on this one. I don't really have too much to say about it other than they have different hosts from, apparently there's like a challenge Australia, a challenge like Argentina, so UK. So they have them divided into different teams for this one, and I didn't know that. I just thought TJ Lavin hosted like all the challenges, but you really haven't been watching it with. You watched a little bit of it with me.
I watched the one you're talking about right now a little bit with you. I haven't watched the reruns
you watched
you've
the.
been into.
I mean, this season you watched part of one
They
of. They
carried that
episodes.
gigantic heavy chain up that sand dune or something.
I just really like. Again, it goes back to my thing with Special Forces. I just really like competition type shows like that. I always have.
They're okay. I don't know.
But
It's like
I feel like that's pretty much all I've been. Have you been watching anything without me?
I've been catching up on Star Wars, The Bad Batch, which is the cartoon.
Okay, I have not seen Bad Batch yet.
If you're a Clone Wars fan,
Which I am.
you will like The
I'm
Bad
not done
Batch.
with the Clone Wars yet, though.
Yeah, it continues the story of some of the clones post Order 66.
Rex, right?
He's in there. He's not one of the main
not
characters,
one of
but
the
he's
main
on the show.
characters.
Yes. So this is into its second season. So I've been watching that. It's good. Like I said, it's not. I mean, it's kind of like more that deep cut Star Wars stuff, which not everybody's going to be into. But if you're a Clone Wars fan, you should probably give it a try. I think it's almost the season for it is almost over. But I'm only like on the 6th episode of the second season. So.
And I've also got some announcements too. And speaking
Okay.
of, besides stuff that we watch, we have a date now. I don't remember if I mentioned that we officially had a date for it, but we got a full trailer for the Bridgerton spinoff story about Queen Charlotte. I think it's called Queen Charlotte, a Bridgerton story, coming out May 4th. They just released a big trailer for it. I wasn't that excited for this show at first because I was like, no, I just want more Bridgerton. But I think this looks like it's going to be pretty good, and that the casting of the young queen is going to be good. And they have a young Lady Danbury, a young Violet. So
I look forward to
that.
hearing you talk about it.
That's right.
I'm not going to be joining you in on that one.
Well, that's okay. But you are going to be joining me for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel Season 5, which we also got a full trailer for this week.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we already got the date announcement, but we didn't get a trailer with that.
Yeah, we have the trailer now that just came
I didn't
out.
watch the trailer.
You didn't watch? I thought I played it on.
Maybe you did.
I think
Yeah,
I did.
maybe you did. And all I did was sit there and complain about her and what's his face?
Lenny Bruce.
Lenny Bruce. Yeah,
I loved that they had them get together briefly.
it was terrible. They shouldn't have done
Why
it.
was it terrible? Just because Lenny Bruce is a real person?
He's a real historical figure, and
Yeah, but the show is loosely written. Let's argue about The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on our ships another day.
okay.
Because we are kind of running big old
All right.
time. So yeah, that was our week, our windy day here.
So yeah,
It's
don't
like
forget
the Wizard of Oz up in here with all the wind.
we got a giveaway.
Oh, we can't end this podcast without talking about which our cast of characters along our run today. We already mentioned is it alive? Is it passed out? But what is one of the things that I would say you probably shouldn't do when you've got like 30 miles per hour wind gusts?
30 to 40 mile hour wind gust, and you go outside with a chainsaw cutting up a stump in your yard.
I feel something hit me in my mouth, and I was like, ow. Like, thank the Lord I had sunglasses on for this run because I'm sure I could have gotten something in my eye. And I was like, ow. I was like, I feel like a piece of wood just hit me in the face. And we're like, okay, well, Daniel's like, shake it off. We got like a mile and a half left. And then we see.
Yeah, that's what he was
The
doing.
man.
He was chainsawing a stump in his yard, like slowly shaving
that
pieces off of it.
Dumb ways to die.
Yeah, and just there was a bunch of people out today, which is, I guess, I don't know. It's like it was that first nice day of spring, but it also wasn't nice because the wind was literally blowing so
my visor
fast.
flew off me at one point. I thought my AirPods were going to fly out.
Yeah, I don't know. There were a ton of people around. Anyways, so we got the giveaway.
Yep.
Make sure you go, retweet us or share our stories on Instagram to enter for that. We will draw that on Saturday, April 1st.
Thank you for listening.
Thank
and
you for listening.
getting us to 10 episodes.
And if you don't know where to find us on Twitter or Instagram, stick around for the thing that pops up as soon as we're done here. So thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to this episode of We Watch TV, a podcast about the TV shows we watch. You can find more from Hope on Twitter @LilRunner or on Instagram @LilRunner1485. And Daniel is on Twitter @TheRealHoboDan. Drop us a line if you like the show or have a question you'd like us to address on a future show. Music for today's podcast was provided by Your Tunes from Pixabay. Artwork was created using the AI program Midjourney with prompts written by Daniel.